awesome. Well, we're here today on Planetary Health First, Mars Next, and we have Alex. Before we get going, Alex, I'm really super glad you're here. You've been on before live, when we were at Health or Vive. I get those confused. But Alex, real briefly, just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Alex Mohseni. I'm an emergency medicine physician and founder of ClinX Academy, where we're trying to help doctors learn the business of medicine so that they can step into leadership and startup and administrative roles. And then, as you know, Michael, I work on lots of other projects, and I'm always building stuff. So great, thank you for having me.
I tell you, you're an MD, but I feel like you're an entrepreneur at the heart. You really can't. You really are always doing things.
Yeah, for sure. Ever since I was a little kid, I'm trying to hustle and make an extra buck. Yeah.
It kind of makes sense too. The little that I know, when I was in grad school, getting my master's in healthcare administration, I got to know about the wiring. I think there's a similar wiring with probably pilots, like really fast pilots in ER. ER, you really got to think on the fly, and really, you guys are innovators next to like RNs. Your resource constraints. So maybe that's sort of the wiring too. And I love that we got to talk a little more about what you're doing with ClinX. It sounds super cool, really an empowerment. A lot of the doctors I've been having on recently, a lot with John Dayton, we talked about with clinical upskilling. I think there's some overlap there, just trying to figure out how relevancy, empowerment, professional development. And also, I think the biggest thing, doctors go into this for autonomy and also really wanting to be a part of, owning it and crushing it. Not, so many are not independent. I don't know. You can tell me all the data points on that, but let's talk a lot more about ClinX.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Michael. Lots of doctors are frustrated with 100% pure clinical practice, and they want some sort of growth opportunity. They want to try something new, something different. They want to augment their income. And I personally love that. And I want to help accelerate the path for any physician who wants to do that. That's basically what I've done in my entire career. And I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. And, I think one of the most kind of interesting phenomenons to think about here is that as a physician, when you're in undergrad, you're in med school, you're in residency, you're always in this mindset, like for this 12 to 15 year training time, you're always thinking about this future state, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to do all of this stuff, and then I'm going to reach this point where I'm an attending, and then it will be all worth it. And I'm going to be so happy, and I'm going to be like, what a life I'm going to have. And then you reach that point and you realize, well, it's not actually the case. Like, you're not actually that happy. You're being burnt out. You're working for some organization that doesn't actually care about you. You don't have free time. Your work-life balance sucks. You're not exercising. Your family's frustrated with you. And so it's extremely jarring to reach that point after so many years of thinking about how amazing it's going to be. And you reach that point, it's not what you expected, and you have no idea what to do next, right? And your mindset is on this, we select people who are really good at following this sort of linear path. So what we're trying to do is help doctors who are in that state to say, hey, here are some options for how you can continue to grow. Here's some hope. Here's a bunch of physicians who have done this. And we're trying to make it faster, easier, cheaper to get to that point. I mean, if you want to spend 2 years getting a healthcare MBA, great, right? But we're offering something that's faster, easier, and I think more fun, and hopefully more likely to actually get you there.
Yeah, I really think this is super cool, and so helpful to doctors. And you've designed this. You have faculty contributors that have done this, and walk us through a little more about what this is, the
Yeah.
time frame, the commitment, and then the other thing that I think is fascinating, which I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but what are the requirements every year? It's sort of like every year they got to do how many CEUs, so they're going to get
Yeah.
them anyway. So do them with something that's going to work and be very beneficial.
Yeah. So I think as a physician, there are many different things you can do either for side income or non-clinical work and income. And what we're focusing on are opportunities and roles where you are a leader, you are a business leader, you're a chief medical officer, a startup advisor, a friendly PC owner. So these are all sort of leadership / administrative roles that have a high business component to them. And the reason we're focusing on that is because that's what I love to do. And I've had so many physicians coming to me and saying, how did you learn what you needed to learn? How are you doing what you're doing? And so I decided, well, let's turn this into a course. So we put together an amazing team of faculty, all sorts of chief medical officers and entrepreneurs, almost all of whom are physicians, with the addition of a couple other domain experts like healthcare attorneys and some other folks. And we created a deep dive course. So this is graduate level training on things like how does Medicare, like deep dive on Medicare Advantage, ACOs, Medicaid, reimbursement, billing, coding. And these are not introductory level courses. These are, each chapter is several hours long, potentially. Some of them are 2 or 3 hours long, where we go deep dive into the nitty-gritty mechanics. This is the stuff, even our own faculty, when they're reading each other's chapters, they're like, oh my God, like I had no idea, like I've been doing this for 10, 20 years and I didn't know all this detail. So we have a 35-hour CME course with text and audio, learn on your own. You can listen to it on any podcast app to make it easy to access. So we have this core curriculum and that's the knowledge component, right? So that if you want to step into one of these roles, you can do it with some knowledge and awareness of all of the various kind of regulatory and operational components you need to be aware of. And then in addition to that, we have a private LinkedIn group, because every opportunity I've had, and I'm sure you as well, it didn't come only because I knew something. It also had to do with whom I knew, right? Like you have to have relationships and use those relationships. So we have a private LinkedIn group. So all of our students get to join that, and that's with our faculty. And that's where we're having discussions, asking questions, making introductions, and helping facilitate people's advancement in their careers. And then we also have private deal flow for opportunities, whether it's friendly PC roles or startup advisor roles, medical director, CMO type roles. And I'm so excited because we're able to get some deal flow for folks that's not publicly out there. One of our first students, we were able to get him a fractional medical director role with a startup in his first week with us. And his wife was so happy that she reached out and wanted to chat with me, because it was such a nice development for his career and their family life.
That's awesome. I'm already thinking of a doctor. That would be great. He has a practice in the Hampton Roads, a mental health practice. And when I hear, I think doctors, I don't want to say there's a high, but I think naturally you are one of the most trained group. And so to me, it's almost, I don't want to say it's a no-brainer. I mean, you had to do the hard work, you had to have the ahas, but it seems like most doctors, as they're trying to learn, progress, want to take it to the next level at some level, but the more doctors I have conversations with, I'm like, gosh, he would really be good, or she would really enjoy this. So anyway, I think I see this building up quite fast.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of demand. I think the challenge is doctors are many physicians are very cynical They're very skeptical. They have time constraints, and so there is that challenge, right, of proving to the physicians that this is really high value. I'm excited because our first batch of students have come through. They love the content. They love the community. We're getting them placed with very cool like roles and positions. So, you know, I think every founder always wishes their company would grow even faster. But it is what it is, and I'm excited that I'm just excited that I can help some physicians who really want to get into the non-clinical space, into administrative and leadership roles. I'm able to help them, and we're able to help them. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think when you hear those kind of like, well, I'm looking to retire or sell my practice or want to do something, there are little buzzwords that kind of do that. And then is there, I know you said 34, 35 hours, but do you offer some sort of, do you break it down to smaller little segments? Because I could imagine that's a pretty exhaustive, that's a lot of amount. How is it laid out?
Yeah, so what we've done is we have 18 deep dive chapters. Again, they go deep into all the mechanics and business aspects of healthcare. And each one is anywhere from, 1 to 2+ hours of kind of audiobook style recording. Plus there's the text version for whoever wants to read. But just like you said, we know folks are time constrained. So we've also created a shorter kind of fun podcast style version of each chapter, which is more like 25 minutes, quick hits, quick summary. And we also have a 2-pager summary of each chapter as well. So we're trying to make it more digestible. And in addition to that, the other piece that I think is really valuable is to hear the stories of physicians who have preceded you and have done this, and learn from their experiences, learn from their mistakes. Many of us, all of us who are in this sort of administrative leadership startup world currently, we mostly figure this out on our own, and it took 10 to 20 years, right? So if you want to do it on your own and take 10 or 20 years, by all means go do it. But if you want some way to accelerate that, that's what this course is. So, and I think hearing people's stories and learning from their mistakes and also what things accelerated their path, I think that's a high value add. And so we also have that in our course. We have dozens and dozens of interviews with physician executives who have charted all sorts of different paths, and hearing their stories is amazing.
It's awesome. And so are you were an ER doc. You're still practicing? You have during, you still practice?
No, I don't practice clinically anymore.
Okay.
But I do, I am the PC owner for a handful of startups. I advise a bunch of other startups. I'm the founder of ClinX. I'm also the co-founder of Backdrop, which is a venture capital platform for VC, an AI platform for venture capital. And then I build AI software on the side as well for law firms.
Yeah, so I would say you're a good example of this. I mean, you've graduated and you're putting your knowledge to the advisory and entrepreneurial world. Let's talk a little more. I mean, we've talked with ClinX, but I think you'd be a perfect person to talk more about AI. What is this that we're hearing? I mean, yes, we might have robots and all over the place in 10 or 12 years, if but where are we right now? I've heard of phase 3 AI. There's this new world we are in, but as it relates to healthcare, with browsers, you get a lot of this stuff with, I'm hearing with, there's with Epic and Cerner, not a lot of EMR satisfaction from you and the docs. And now there's some really cool wrappers and things you can do with AI. Let's talk about that.
I think my high level thought here is that we are in the beginning stages of the beginning innings of this. This gives me a similar feeling to what was the change that happened in the beginning stages of the internet. Like if you think back to that very first 2 years when browsers were just coming out and people were using Netscape and Internet Explorer hadn't even come out, that's the stage that we're in. I strongly believe that this is not I forget what the term is. This is not BS. This is the real deal. Like this is not like crypto where the use case is unclear. I myself am working directly with multiple companies and clients where AI is displacing people. It is. And if it's not my software doing it, then it's going to be somebody else's software. Like it's happening whether you want it or not. It's happening in healthcare. It will happen to physicians. And I think it's incredibly important for everybody to for everybody to try to learn as many skills as they can with AI, because I really think the whole business world is going to be thrown upside down. It will take some time. It's not going to be overnight, but it's already happening. And if you don't learn to adapt quickly, you're going to be left behind. Just like if you put yourself back in the Netscape era and somebody asks you to predict what's the internet going to look like in 5 or 6 years, it's impossible to do. So I'm not going to try to figure that out. But all I can predict is that the change is going to be tremendous. I think this is potentially more change than the internet era brought us. It's fundamentally going to change what it means to do human work. And if you think about all of the various tasks that we do as a physician, whether it's taking a history, doing a physical exam, coming up with a list of potential diagnoses, deciding what the ultimate diagnosis is that we're going to pursue, and then coming up with a treatment plan and then following up. Almost every one of those can be done by AI, and I would argue some of those can be done by AI better than most physicians, with infinite amount of patients at marginally zero cost. Mm-hmm. So you're going to tell me like healthcare is not going to change? Well, like you clearly don't understand what's happening right now.
Yeah. So you're very bullish, but I mean, we must be overwhelmed. It's just accelerating so fast. What can we do to not just like, we talk about physician burnout, but I feel like AI burnout, like what is one sort of thing that us as knowledge workers can do to feel like we have a chance? It's almost like frightening.
I think the main thing to do as a knowledge worker right now is to learn how to use AI to make your value and your throughput of what you produce for whichever client or boss or company, like 10x what it is currently. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know how to make it 10x, then you need to learn more, because that's what's possible right now. Like some of the software I'm building right now, literally last year, it took a team of developers, and now I'm doing it on the side with one AI tool by myself. I mean, that's just in 1 year. I can't even imagine what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years.
Could you share a little more about that software? I mean, some of it you might not be able to say.
No, it's fine. So one of the things I'm building is a medical chronology or medical history summarization tool for disability attorneys. So let's say you have a disability and you're trying to get Social Security disability. If you get an attorney to help you, the likelihood of success is significantly higher, and you're more likely to get Social Security disability faster, right? So you go to an attorney, and in the old model, you would have literally 3,000 pages of medical records that you dump onto the attorney's desk, and they had a team of humans who would manually read these and create some sort of chronological summary so that the attorney can understand what your story is and then prepare your appeal letter to Social Security Administration, for example, if you've been previously denied. So that was being done by humans, and it would take several days for one human to make one chronological abstract for one client, and it would cost the attorneys about $500 in human labor to do that. So I built a tool that basically automates that process for them. It costs them less than $50 to generate one abstract, and it's done in an hour. So now we're expanding on that tool and making it faster, better, et cetera, and then making it available to other disability attorneys.
That's super cool. Now, are you using Claude? What models, what AIs are you using?
I'm using OpenAI's Codex platform, CODEX. I've used some of the other platforms. For me, so my kind of setup is I use Codex to write the code, and then I run our test versions of the code in Replit. Replit just makes it so easy to run any sort of project that you're building and debug it. And then we deploy our live version on Render, and on Render. Render makes it relatively easy for us to build a highly secure application with all the security parameters that we need.
So how do you, are you a developer by, I mean, obviously you're a doctor by training, but do you have any code prior to this AI revolution?
I have no formal training. Just been, code like an amateur coder since I was a kid.
Okay.
Just writing little silly things. But I've been building like tech solutions ever since I was a kid.
Okay, so you were like no formal, but yes, you have experience versus someone that's just like a prompt. Now in the world of yes, you can just prompt things. And so how do you? That's the thing that I find so overwhelming to the average person is there's so many of these prompt vibe coding out there, and you just showed a process from. You started with OpenAI, the Codex. Then you said, well, you're using, I think it was Replit, and then you're doing it through Renders, like 3 different applications. Where are you getting your knowledge? Would you share? I think the audience would find this fascinating because your experience is fascinating.
I think if you go on YouTube and you watch some of the talks on this stuff, you're going to get overwhelmed because if you watch 10 videos, you're going to get 10 different ways of doing this. And my recommendation would be, it doesn't matter. Just choose one and start somewhere, right? It doesn't matter. There is no single right answer. Most of the videos I watch, they're not using Codex with Replit. They're doing something else. And I'm fine with that. Like, that's okay, right? Just do what works for you. And I think the best way to do this is to just start with a problem that you understand very well yourself and build a solution for that. So for example, my kids' schools banned them from using ChatGPT. Like they set it up somehow on the school Wi-Fi so kids could not access ChatGPT. So I built a solution for my kids so that they could send an SMS to ChatGPT and get a response, which they couldn't block. But that was a little project. And so you just have to sit down and figure out how to do that, because I think the school's approach that AI is evil and we shouldn't use it, I think that's the wrong approach. You have to, it's a tool. You have to learn how to use the tool. And if you don't learn how to use the tool, you're going to be destroyed by the kids who know how to use it. And
the teacher should probably be able to say, you used ChatGPT on this, didn't you? You need to learn how to write a sentence all by itself,
And my wife is a teacher, and so I see that perspective too. So both sides should learn how to use AI productively. I think AI can be a great tool to help accelerate the learning of a lot of our kids. We have to think about this in a problem solving, not a pure like fear-based perspective.
Yeah, that's cool. My wife's a teacher too. So anyway, teachers, you learn a lot from the different perspectives, so from the education, from the student, and from the teacher. It's a lot more complicated. And I would argue it's here. The kids need to play around with it, but then take away ChatGPT. Yeah, learn how to write an essay without it too.
Yeah, and that is a skill you should learn as well, right?
Yeah.
But how can we use AI to help those? So for example, I made an AI tutor for my kids so that as they go through problems and they don't know how to solve it, I train the AI, don't give them the answer, help them think, right? Help just only respond with questions, not answers. So you can do this, right?
Yeah. So I'm hearing you've always been kind of technologically curious, kind of
Yeah.
designer curious, and you still really are, and that's what's pushing it. You're using your domain. Walk me through a little more, and I'm sorry I'm constantly getting on this, but with the codex, like why codex to begin with, OpenA versus Claude versus Perplexity versus now Grok 4's out, and you get this, and just kind of your mindset. I'd love to hear a little more of this since you're so technologically kind of focused.
Yeah. So Replit has, so first of all, I love Replit as a like foundation to tinker and build solutions, software. And I love it because they've solved so many aspects that are so painful when you're building something. Like it's one thing to write code, but then you have to deploy that code, right? And like deployment has all sorts of tricky nuances that will like destroy, like eat up all of your time. And Replit has basically like a one button deploy, right? That you can click so that you can see your app live and then see if it works. So I love using Replit, and Replit has its own AI that you can use to build a lot of the apps. What I experienced is that their AI, because of the way Replit's like pricing works and all that, they're not using the strongest coding AI. And what would happen is after like the 20th iteration of the AI trying to build my app, once it got to a certain size, Replit's internal AI couldn't debug the problems that I had, and I was going in endless circles. So I was forced to then go to other models to try to figure out, like, find a more powerful AI. And the most powerful one I've been able to find that like in one shot can debug most issues is on the OpenAI advanced models like O3, O3 Pro. When you use Codex, which is OpenAI's coding tool, it doesn't tell you which model is underlying it. So I'm not sure, but what I can tell you is that it seems to be using a very powerful model. I suspect they're just using O3 or O3 Pro, and so what I was doing was like I was building in Replit, but I was using O3 to code, and it got really difficult because O3 was telling me do XYZ, and then I had to manually go and make the changes in the code each time in Replit, and that was painful. So then I said, okay, well, what's an easier way? And then I realized, so you can basically from Replit, you can pull your code from a GitHub repository, and then from Codex, you can push code to GitHub. So the way that I set this up is I first build the most basic part of my app in Replit so that Replit gets all the deployment structures set up. So I do that. Then I connect the Replit app to a new GitHub repository. So all the code now is in GitHub. Then I connect that to Codex. And now, after that initial setup, I only work in Codex to write the code. So I say, okay, here's the next feature I want you to build. So Codex will write the feature, then I push that to GitHub, and then I pull from GitHub into Replit, and I deploy in Replit, and I see if it works. And only once, so that's my setup. So I'm using a very powerful model, and that it seems to be like I haven't gotten any sort of limits from OpenAI. And it doesn't even seem to be charging me. Like I've used it to an insane amount over the last 8 weeks, and there's been no charge to me. Now I am on that $200 a month plan, so maybe that's why. But anyways, that's my current.
And that's the $200 a month limit for OpenAI that you're speaking of.
Yeah, so I'm using that. So Codex pushes to GitHub, and then I pull from GitHub to Replit. I deploy on Replit, and that setup has worked really, really well.
I really appreciate that because I have conversations with others who are doing this that aren't technical founders, aren't developers that have found this new world doing this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of these it's almost like you're in an arcade machine, and you've avoided the arcade problem, whatever you want to call it, but you got to keep on putting the quarter in the machine because you're running out of usage. And it's like almost like if you're not doing what I think is a workaround, or somehow you figured out how you can keep on putting your whatever breaking the game where you're able to keep on playing and you're not having to keep on putting the quarters in. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, I wake up at like 4:30 a.m. and the first thing I do after my coffee is like get on Codex and just build the next feature out. It's so exciting. It's a creative process, right?
So we're here. We have a few more minutes. We're kind of wrapping it up. I think people understand what Clinics is solving, what you're doing. You also shared one of the projects you're doing with disability attorneys. And gosh, if you guys, sounds like you have a client as a user. That's a great way. I always tell people, hey, get a client. However you're sharing the development costs, we don't need to tell you over the air, everyone, what your model is. But then you can go out and sell to. I bet you there's 200 to 1,000 disability attorneys throughout America, and that's a pretty cool. That could be a pretty neat little thing. But what would be cool as we end in these next few weeks, in these next few minutes here on the show? Let's just imagine some stuff you'd like to build. If you could just play around like over these next, like, because I'm sure if you looked at Alex's portfolio of AI, what if you could just play with something over these next, like, deploy in the next year or two, or just whatever, 5 to 7 things, spitball, Alex's development AI, no code vibe.
Okay.
And who would you sell to?
That piece is a little harder, but I'll tell you one thing I really wish existed, and maybe it does, but I haven't seen it, is I'd like to be able to listen to Twitter. So like, I go on a walk and I find myself like every once in a while, like sometimes I'm just like, Twitter is like just so fun to just browse sometimes, or whatever, whether it's Instagram or Reddit or whatever, right? But I don't want to be looking at a screen. I want an AI like kind of going through it and then curating some of the information and then just telling me what it is as I walk, just for fun. I think that would be like a really cool thing for somebody to build. And I would.
I love that. I love that. And you know what I've been talking to someone about is I almost think we're getting to a point where there's a sentiment indicator, because we don't know if these are real or bots. I think there's a lot of people right now paying for people to post on their LinkedIn. It's getting, and I'm just saying this, I'm not going to mention any of these names. We both know some of, whatever. I don't want to even hint at something, but imagine if you had an app that was able to engage, and I guess these are bots. You're probably like, Mike, it's already out there, but it gives you a sentiment indicator every whatever few days. Like these are the things that's trending on LinkedIn or whatever. This is who you should post, and this is how to. And maybe this already exists. I don't know, but it just seems like at this point, I'm so over social media and all these things, and I would rather just use an app to drop out and let it do what you need to do. So that would be something I would like to have built.
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. Another thing I would really love is I'm half Latvian and I'm half Iranian. And so I'm always trying to like keep up with my language skills and with both of those. And I don't know if you know, but you can chat in these other languages with ChatGPT on voice mode, and it automatically detects the language you're speaking and can speak back to you in that language. Like, it's crazy. But I wish it were a little bit better, and I wish I could just have an interesting ongoing conversation with AI in a non-English language, just to help maintain my language skills. So I think we're very close to that, but like something that's tailor-made to that. And I don't want to have a dumb conversation. I want to have like a really interesting intellectual conversation. And so I think that like I would love that. And I would love a version that I could offer my kids, because I want them to learn the languages too.
That is super cool. And I know like Google issued something where it's like in real time, Google Meets, like I could be having whoever's Russian or Ukrainian, and it's real time, it's translated. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
all right. So what's another one? Something in healthcare, since this is healthcare. So I can steal not that I want to steal your idea and make millions, but just in case.
I'll tell you what I want in healthcare. I want an AI doctor. Like 100% AI. I don't want to talk to another human being. And I want this doctor's job to be it's not like to manage sickness, but to optimize my health. And I wanted to access all of the top thinkers in like the longevity space And I want it to be like a Jiffy Lube experience where it basically solves like, okay, at this stage, here's the 8 supplements you should consider taking. Each one, click to see like who recommended this and why, and like double check the research. Does it make sense? And then figure out like go figure out like what's the best source of this that's not toxic and all that sort of like figure it all out for me. Yeah, I think like a health optimization AI tool, like I would want that. I'm spending so much time on that manually
Your
right now.
longevity R2D2.
Yeah, there you go. LongevityR2D2.com. Somebody should buy that.
Yeah. All right. Can we do 2 more? We got 2 more. We got 2 more apps that we're going to build. And if anyone does it, they need to give us royalty and licensing. Guaranteed.
Oh boy.
All right. What do we not need another AI for? Like, do we need we probably don't need another EMR and well, maybe we do, or a scribe. There's 180 so plus.
Well, we definitely need a new enterprise EMR, like something that's not out of the Stone Ages, like the unnamed ones that I'm not going to name. Like,
yeah.
Jesus, my God. But
so who's more guilty? Is it the insurance companies that or the EMR that's killed medicine faster, or the patients? Do we blame it on the patients?
No, it's
patients are always wrong, right? Customers and patients are always wrong, and health insurance and EMRs.
No, I actually I take a different viewpoint. I think a lot of people make the health insurance companies the enemy, but I don't think they are. Like, think about this. Most working adults are getting their insurance through their employer, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how the employer is the actual payer of their medical policy, and they might use United Healthcare or Aetna or Humana as the administrator of that policy, but it's the employer who's the actual payer, and it's the employer who's actually deciding what to cover, what not to cover. They go through this process every year. They meet with the benefits broker and they say, we're going to cover this, we're not cover this. So everybody's angry at the insurance company. The insurance company is just doing the bidding of the employer in that model, right? But nobody talks about that piece of it. So so yes, without a doubt, some insurance companies are bad actors sometimes and denying certain things that they shouldn't. But it's not as black and white as the kind of folks.
I appreciate that. I think it's just like every year people do their taxes. There's not a lot of engagement or whatever. Maybe there is every quarter or whatever. I don't want to get too, but it's like you just get it in, get it out. But so what if healthcare, your employer or the third party administrator was way more engaged? I think you're absolutely right to make healthcare better, to healthcare that you would use. And so, all right, last app. This is Alex. This is going to hit the shelf. Not that you have 1 minute to pitch this.
I would love, you know what I really would love as a business owner? I'd love an AI that could just connect to all of my accounts and figure out all of my sales tax and income tax and just file it for me. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with human bookkeepers. I don't want to deal with Quicken. I absolutely abhor all of that. I abhor it.
I think you're naming that company Palantir. Isn't that what Palantir does? It's like knows what you're thinking and whatever.
They know everything. Yeah. But I don't think they file your taxes for you.
Yeah, they won't do that. That would be too helpful. So where do we leave it today? I mean, we've gone, across, from clinics to what you're doing. How would you like to end it these next few minutes?
I think my final message would be that AI is unlocking the greatest opportunity in our lifetimes to be a builder, to be a solver, to be an entrepreneur, to get into the business space. And if you're in healthcare and you want to get into a business or leadership or executive role, there's never been a better time to do that. And through ClinX, we want to accelerate your path there, give you the guidance, show you the path, help you however much we can. And yeah, and some of it you're gonna have to like you're gonna have to do some work, right? But that's what this is. I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for growth right now for those people who are willing to put in some effort and just try. Just try. Yeah, a couple times it's not going to work out. Okay, get up and move on.
Show up.
Show up.
Cool. Man, Alex, it's been great having you on today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. This was really great.
Cool. I enjoyed it. I have to do it more often.